Well, I was born in the Western Isles.
Whereabouts?
A place called Locheinert, which was a fishing village on the eastern seaboard of South Uist.
Ah, right.
So our family house was just probably 100 yards from the shore.
Yeah.
And
what kind of house was it, Willie?
in those days it was a thatched cottage.
Right.
Yes,
okay.
an old style.
Yeah. Whitewashed.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
How many rooms?
There was about 4 bedrooms in it, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
But in those days and all, of course, being in the islands, we didn't have any electricity, of course. And we just used, well, I remember the Aladdin.
Aye.
And a small, yeah. And then...
That's the sort of colour gas heating?
No, just, no,
No.
the methylated spirits was the wick in it and a big funnel.
Yeah, okay.
And then after that, the times got better, I suppose, you know.
And the
then
heating
we got
with the peat fire?
the pit fire, and that was heating the whole house.
Aye.
There was a fire at one end of the house and at the other end too.
Right.
Yes.
And you had the peat bank for that, eh?
Yes, well, that was a big process in just start of the summertime. We had to cut the pit, you know, in a big bog, you know. We had a big croft, of course.
Yes, aye.
And there was plenty of places for cutting the pit. There was a lot of pit bogs on the croft.
Yeah, yeah.
And we cut that, and then it's out on the ground, you know, and it's drying out.
Yes.
You know, for about 3-4 weeks maybe, and then it's built into, you know, so that it dries better. Built, you know,
it's stacked
up.
Yeah, aye. I used that in Call actually, the peat bank in Call.
Yes.
So I've cut the peat, and
yes.
you had to avoid the clegs and everything, didn't you?
Oh yes. Well, the midges were the worst, really.
Aye,
and that's when it came to about in the summertime, maybe about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, if you're actually, because it's a long day cutting pit, because you've got to cut a lot of it, tons of it, probably, to last right through the winter time.
Give you a year's supply.
Yes, because there's no other fuel really in the islands at that time. The coal probably, I don't know if anybody used coal, but it was mostly pit really. Anyway. So that took a long time. And then you put it into big stacks from the wee ones that was built right around the bog. You took it nearer the house and you built these big pit stacks out, you know, tons of it. Yeah.
Great.
And that lasted right through the winter into probably the following summer.
Yeah. Were there other people in the family, brothers, sisters, or anything like that?
Well, none of my brothers played the pipes. I don't have a sister. But I had uncles and aunties that played. It was a family tradition, really, going back.
Yeah. How many generations?
Well, my grandfather's grandfather played. And then it was my grandfather that taught me. So I came
what
to
was
that.
His name?
Donald John Morrison. Now, he was
you know who taught him?
Well, he went, in those days, he was actually born in, I'll tell you from the start, he was born actually in a place called Europey Ness, Isle of Lewis.
Right.
And then, when he was young, they moved to Benbecula. And they had an estate there. And when he was growing up, you know, he worked on the estate, cutting hay and probably feed and all, the usual thing.
Yes,
and cutting hay and corn and all that, it was the size they used.
But they're all crofters, really?
Yes, yes. And in those days, I was told, my grandfather told me that Willie Laurie used to go up every summer to teach there in the islands, Benbecula and South Uist.
What sort of era would that be? A decade?
I'm talking about probably before the First World War.
Okay.
Say 1910.
Yes.
1915, around that time, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And there was also another piper that was there about that time. Pipe Major William McLean and all used to go there, you know, to teach. You know, so
they composed quite a bit, didn't they?
Oh
These
yes.
guys.
Oh yes. Pipe Major William Laurie especially. His 2 full masters are absolutely superb. You know,
can you recall the names of any?
Well, the Pibroch and Co. for a start, and oh yes, it's one of the best 2/4s probably you could hear.
And the other chap?
Well, William McLean, I don't know much about him really. My grandfather spoke more about Willie Laurie really, you know, from Ballachulish. He came from Ballachulish.
And what did he teach Pibroch and light music?
Yes,
the whole lot,
he went through the whole repertoire really. He put my grandfather to a lot of Pibrochs, yes, and light music.
So your grandfather had a good, steady background in piping then?
He did indeed, yes, and he sang the Pibroch Chanters. You know, he used that a lot when he was teaching. I remember and all when I was growing up, you know, at the start when I was taught Pibroch, my grandfather, he had a method, a different method maybe. He would put the Pibroch Society book on the curtain on the window with a clothes peg. And he would have me playing right through the whole tune, and he would do the conducting.
Right, good.
Just like an orchestra. Just to get the various lights and shades and expression into the Pibroch. Yes. So that's one of the ways that he went around teaching me. And I think it was an advantage really, because you understood the tune better, you know, when it's sung.
And he would sing the tune and you'd play to his singing and his conducting, and you're buried in the music at the same time.
At the same time, and that was one of the best ways to memorize the tune and all.
How long did it take you to memorize a tune?
Not really long. I was very, very lucky in that respect. My grandfather always said to me that I had a photographic memory.
Good.
So when I looked at the book, and I would have a tune off in a couple of days maybe, just by looking at the book and the variations and memorizing it. It works for me anyway.
So did you build up quite a library of tunes in your head very quickly or whatever?
Yes.
How many tunes did you do in a year, Pibroch-wise, do you think?
Well, I went to put it in a nutshell really, you know. By the time I was 18 years of age, I probably went through all the Pibroch Society books with my grandfather. Not learning them for memory's sake, but going through them.
Going through them all.
And and in those days, you're talking about 12 Pibroch Society books.
Yes.
Were there then.
Yes.
He had older books himself, but they were frayed and, you know, they weren't as good. So he decided to get me the whole Pibroch Society collection. And it was going up to book 12 at the time.
But he obviously had learned all these tunes from Willie McLean.
Willie Laurie, and probably other sources, I don't know. He was in the 2nd Battalion. I think it was the 2nd Battalion of the Cameron Highlanders too, before the First World War. He served in the First World War. You know, I think he was in France and all that. So he survived that, and he came back from that, and he came to Glasgow, and he worked on John Brown's.
Right.
Yes, they were building big ships there. And then he went to Belfast, Harlan and Wolff and all. So he was very experienced in that line.
Was he a caulker, or what did he do in the shipyards?
Well, he was a riveter, I think.
A riveter,
yes, a riveter. But when he went back, he had a fair knowledge. He was a joiner to trade. He learned that before he left, anyway, at a young age. And he taught me the joiner work and all. But he actually was very good at the clinker-built boats. He built small clinker-built boats on the Croft too, beside the shore. He had not a lot, but he showed me a lot about that too. I helped him a lot on that. It was I was lucky. He was very fond of me and my grandfather. It was a great influence on me, really, you know, from my life.
Isn't it? Did you go out fishing together or anything like that?
Sorry?
Did you do any fishing?
Yes, it was every day when the weather was allowing it. We done that was the main thing anyway. The main diet you had was fish.
Was it saithe and mackerel and that sort of thing?
Yes, inshore it was cis and lythe.
Lythe.
Yes, that was further inshore, but out in the Minch, we're near it's Lochiner Bay, where I was born. It's about 3 miles long, and it's a fishing village. It's two sides, north and south.
Yes.
So most of the houses there in that village, fishing village, Lochiner, they were all fishermen, really. You know, so we fished a lot. And
what about the lobsters and the crabs?
Yes, we had krills. We had lobster krills too. offhand, I think we had at one time 60 obstacles.
That's a lot.
Which was set out every day and retrieved the next morning, left overnight.
And did the product there, was it shipped out of the island or what?
Yes, what happened was he would build a huge box, maybe about a wooden crate, say, that floated in the sea. And he built it himself, being a joiner anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
And he would, all the lobsters we got was put in this box. And they were fed in that box too.
Yes.
So you probably would have maybe 100 lobsters in that box. You fill it up, say 100 lobsters, before it's sent away to the mainland. And it was actually sent to the east coast, to Fraserburgh. That's where the market was. And from there, well, I was told it was sent to Spain and France and Italy, all the shellfish.
Tremendous. So that's your influence of the family piping. Your father, what about, did he pipe much?
He died young, and he didn't have much influence on me because of that. You know, but he wasn't a piper himself.
When did you start competing, Willie?
Well, locally in South East local competitions, there was a competition called the Flora MacDonald competition. And then there was the South East Games.
Were they quite big at that time?
They were very, very big in those days, the South East Games.
What decade are we talking about now that you're competing?
Sorry, Alan?
What decade did you start competing in?
Oh, it was, well, it probably was the early 60s, I would say.
Right.
And in those days, most of the great players went up for the South East Games. And I can recall the greatest players, John D. Burgess, Prime Minister Donald Morrison and all, Captain John McClellan, Willie MacDonald, Ben Beckela, and so many others, you know. There were so many of them, I can't even now remember their names, you know, and they were all great players.
I remember going up there once, and, well, I was up twice actually, when I was in the 60s. And Jimmy Young was up there and won a few.
Jimmy, yes, it brings my memory. Jimmy Young and Ian McFadden, John McFadden. Yes, there was a great piping family. Yeah, they went up there and supported.
They all went up in the McBrain's boat. And did they do the North US Games when we were up there?
Yes, it's generally after the South US Games. But now it's vice versa. There's in the same week, maybe the following day. It's the
and then down for the Tobermory Games after that?
Yeah, I never actually went to Tobermory, yes. I never went there and would have loved to, but, well, it's just the way things are sometimes.
Yes. But, difficult to get back from Mull, I suppose, for you.
Yes, you probably had to go to Oban to get a ferry from Oban to Mull. But generally, my grandfather took me to the bigger competitions, like the Argyllshire Gathering and the Northern Meetings when I was very young.
Okay, so what time did you start going to the big ones?
Well, I probably was about 18. My first venture out of the islands, and it was the Oban Games, the Argyllshire Gathering, and my grandfather.
What age again, sorry?
I was about 18 years of age, I think. Yes. Before that, as I said, I was competing locally.
The locals,
and I was doing very well. I won a lot of prizes there too. But anyway, my first venture was, I actually came second in the Masters, at Oban, and in those days, Argyllshire Gathering. It wasn't really graded then as it is nowadays.
It was an open competition.
It was, everybody was competing, and it was a big entry. You probably were in the March competitions, about 60 in it or something like that. Yeah, it was a big entry. So anyway, I was chuffed to bits, you know, when I came second, So there was good, really great, I should say, players and all, you know, likes of Arthur Gillis.
Yes.
From, oh my goodness, he could play a good 2-4 march. Fantastic altogether.
What was really your forte? What was the best that you could do at that time? Was it Pibroch or was it Strathspeys mules?
Well,
were you a bit
it was
of an
a mixture of both, but probably really it was the light music, probably Strathspeys and Wills.
And what was your sort of favourite march at that particular time you're talking about?
Yes, there was so many of them. Really. They're also fantastic tunes, you know, especially the competition.
The one you were maybe successful
with. But probably Abercairney Highlanders.
Abercairney Highlanders.
That was a difficult tune to play and all, an express. There's a lot of work in it, a heavy tune. So
what sort of speed were you playing at that time, the Abercairn Highlanders?
Well, it's such a while back, but I can maybe show you now.
Aye, absolutely.
Around that speed, really, I would say.
Yep.
Yes.
What's your opinion on the fast march playing that some of them play now? Do you feel that it's more expressive playing at that particular speed?
Yes, I was just going to hit on that point, Alan.
Aye.
Yes, I think when I was growing up, before I started really to compete, I think the 2/4 marches especially were quite expressive.
Yes.
And slower paced. It was after really I came to the bigger games that when I started to hear other pipers playing.
Aye.
And they were playing a wee bit brisker than I was.
John Burgess played quite fast.
Oh yes. An immaculate player, unbelievable player, great altogether.
Aye.
Especially the 2/4. Yeah, but then I decided just to, and my grandfather and all, he probably, he wasn't swayed all that much because he was used to the way I was playing anyway. But in order to get into the price list, I think, we upped the tempo slightly.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how that happened, I think. Yeah.
And how about Strathspeys and Mules? What about the tempo of the Strathspeys?
Yes, well, I don't think I altered that from the way I was taught, to the present day. The way other people's tempo, yeah, I think that kept pretty steady, really.
What's your influence in Strathspey playing? Is it the way you'd visualise dancers, or was it?
Yeah, well, it's got to have a kind of dancing tempo to it at Strathspey. That's very, very important. I think, come to nowadays, really, I think Strathspeys are pretty rounded off from the way I would prefer them, really. They're like a bit of kind of phrasing expression.
Yeah.
Can
you give me an example? A couple of bars of Strathspey.
Say in three, we come Arneson Castle, maybe.
Okay.
So that's something like that. I missed a couple of doubles there. But
no, that's fine. It's just...
Because I don't practice now, the way I used to. Yes, and Alan, in order really to be right among the prices, of course there was a lot of practice to be done. You had to practice a lot.
So how much practice would you put in?
Well, when I was in youth, when I was in the Hynert, you had a lot of chores to do in a croft, of course. You had to tend to the cattle on a ship, and we had ship dogs, and so you're out quite a lot and all.
Yes.
And when you had a chance, as I said, you went fishing. But you made time for that too. But you had to take the we had cows, we had 3 or 4 cows and calves and all that. So they were taken to the lochs, for the water, and to the grazing ground higher up. In the hills. There was a lot of hills surrounded in the bay, Lochiner Bay, where I was born, surrounded by beautiful mountains altogether. And I recall at night, if I would go out, outside the house, when you stopped playing, you could hear the echo coming back from the mountains, which was really, it was unbelievable. The pipes just brought it all back.
It's an outdoor instrument, isn't it?
Yes, it's amazing when you think of it.
So you would, is it true to say then you did most of your pipe practice outdoors?
Well, it was generally...
Depending on the weather.
Well, in the summertime, yes, I'd done a lot of playing outside, yes.
Did you ever practice in the rain?
Yes, on the snow. Yes, I marched in the snow and all. Yeah, it was amazing.
Did you find that beneficial for competitions later on in your life?
Yes, I was very fortunate too. My hands were always warm, no matter what weather it was. I was very, very lucky because a lot of pipers sometimes they suffer from cold hands.
Ah, of course.
Yes, even on a summer's day.
Aye.
And when I was practicing outside, for marching purposes, to be a really good march player,
Yeah.
and to go through the correct routine, my grandfather actually built a stage outside the house for me.
Good.
It wasn't a stage, a big square stage.
Yeah. Aye.
It was actually a very narrow plank, two strung together. And the reason for that was you had to keep on it so that you didn't go off.
Aye.
When you're marching, you're just in a straight line.
Aye.
And when you went to the end of the plank, you had to turn round on a spot when you're marching, so that you don't waver about. Like you see sometimes
wandering
pipers wandering before they start off again. So that was one of the ways
That's
he taught me how to march.
It's
just a narrow plank. Yeah. Yes, and you're in a straight line all the time, backwards and forwards. Yeah. Concentration is required at the start, but after a while, there was no problem.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
What type of pipes were you playing in your early life?
It was an old pipe. It was everybody in the house, I think, played it, and I think it was a kind of lorry bagpipe. It's probably still there, but I played it a lot, and it was actually, in all honesty, this is a different story. You know, I was going to come to it maybe somewhere along the line here, but I might as well just tell you the story while we're on it. The pipe was for the left shoulder, but of course, you know, I play with my right hand on the top. So that's the way I started. Like Pipe Major Donald McLean of Lewis, you know, he played the pipes on the left shoulder, although his hands were the other way around.
Aye, but I think had he not been told to do that by the army, and he'd originally started in his right shoulder.
I'm not really sure.
And switched over to left shoulder, but kept the hand position the same.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, Alan. It could be the right story. Yeah. But anyway, I've seen pictures of. I never knew Donald, but I've seen pictures of him that brought it to light.
So anyway, about yourself.
So anyway, because of the pipes being fitted for the left shoulder, I was competing on the left shoulder at an easy early 18 onwards until I was about maybe 22.
But your hand position was?
The same. That, of course. It was very difficult to compete at the highest level. Yeah. So anyway, I won first prizes at Omen and Vaness, playing on that side. On the left.
And what, was that the Pibroch? Or?
No, in the light music.
The light music.
And then there was a judge in those days, a fantastic guy when I knew him, because he came up to me and he introduced himself. He was one of the judges at, I think, at the Agansha gathering. And he says to me, Willie, you need new reeds. So he was a reed maker, you see.
Aye. Do you know his name?
D.R. McLennan.
Okay.
From the roads, North Berwick.
Okay.
So he says, I'll send you good reeds, because the drawback in the islands, from Lewis, Harris, and the Hughes, Barra, and all that, we only got reeds through the post.
Aye.
No, and that's the only thing you could work with, what you got.
Aye.
No, they probably weren't the best reeds, because there were reeds probably that were manipulated in the shops already. You know, like lorries and Henderson. My grandfather dealt with Hendersons probably in those days.
Yes.
So the reeds are probably every breast had tried them. And these are the reeds that were sent through the post.
So you were left with what was left in the bottom of the box.
The rejects, in other words. But you had to make do, and that was it. But D.R. McLennan told me that I'll send you good reeds. And he kept to his word. And my bagpipe, after that, after getting his cane drawn reeds too, he was a very good reed maker, D.R.
Great.
And my pipes were singing then, and I started winning more prizes. And he also told me at that time, that particular time, that if I changed to the right shoulder, I would have more control of the bagpipe.
Okay.
And I took his word for it.
Okay.
So I think it was at the Agansha gathering that, and I won first in the marches that particular year.
Okay.
And then I went to Inverness. And I practiced for a fortnight. I think in those days it was a fortnight in between the Agansha gathering and the northern meetings.
Okay, right.
So I practiced on the right. And lo and behold, I won first in the Strathspeys and the jigs playing on the right shoulder.
A fortnight after?
Yes.
You changed?
Yes.
Ah,
So no many people know that. It's a story that I wanted to tell.
That's tremendous.
Yes.
So that must have been quite a thing, because to you're, 1 minute you're controlling the bag with your left arm,
yes,
and the next minute you're controlling it with your right arm, and you've got to educate your right arm to do that.
Yes.
Keep your concentration in your marching, your piping, your blowing, and everything else.
Yes. Well,
I think it would probably taken everybody else about a couple of years, never mind 2 weeks.
But see, at the end of the day, really, it was perseverance too.
Aye.
Yes, but you know, I was playing well anyway.
Aye.
And I was doing a lot of practice.
Yeah.
So the playing side, probably playing the tunes themselves was easy enough.
About the bag itself, did you play a small bag, a medium-sized bag, or a large sheepskin, wasn't it?
Well, it was sheepskin.
Everybody played.
It was
sheepskin.
a medium size, I would say.
Medium size.
Yes.
Do you have any comment on the size of bags? Because there's always a controversy. I play a small one myself, and
yes,
I was speaking to somebody last week about how they felt that a large bag gave you a large, a vibrant sound.
Yes,
and it was a sound box. In other words,
yeah,
the bag was a sound box.
Yes.
For especially top hand of the chanter there. That's why people are reverting to sheepskin bags, and you know. What's your experience with that bags?
Well, it was mostly sheepskin, but I did try the hide and all. But the hide bag really, the pipes got damper quick. The moisture, you know, was
no traps or anything. No moisture traps.
Yeah, no. There was no tubes in those.
Just a wee leather valve as well, the blue stick. Yeah?
Yes, we had the old leather valve. You could hear it through your playing too. From an old boot, you know, the tongue of an old leather boot. It was cut roughly out of that. Yeah, that's what we used. But things have advanced drastically since then, though, you know.
See, the chanter that you used at that time, what kind of pipe chanter was it? Was it a lorry chanter, or what kind of chanter?
In the older pipe, my grandfather...
And your first pipe, I'm talking.
It was a Henderson, an old Henderson.
An old Henderson, yes. Aye.
And then, because it was quite low-pitched, really, you know, my grandfather got me a new Sinclair chanter.
Right.
And it was 2 years. It was a 2-year waiting list, I think. So I got that chanter in probably 1968. That was my first brand new chanter, which was
and you were really doing well in 68, weren't you?
It was. I've still got it. And being a reed maker, that's the chanter I use for testing the reeds, really. I got it in my wee workshop there. And yes, you could compete with that chanter actually now. It's worn right enough because of the playing done on it.
The edges of the holes.
Yes, and then after that, I got a Kintail chanter, which I altered myself to suit myself, you know, get the tone right and get the balance right. Then I was in the Glasgow Sky Association. Yes, that's still going strong.
That was with Jimmy MacLeod.
Well, Jimmy MacLeod, I knew him very well, but actually his son had taken over, Donald.
See, I was in it
he was a
with
dentist.
Jimmy, way back. We won the 72 World Championship in the second grade with Jimmy.
Yes, well, I joined after Walkers. It was probably about mid-70s when I joined.
Were you with Donald then?
Sorry?
Donald MacLeod, the son, or was it Kenny?
Donald MacLeod, Jimmy MacLeod's son, yes.
Yes. Was he the pipe major?
He was the pipe major when I was there, yes.
Okay. Yes.
We had good players in the Glasgow Sky too, really good players there. Kenny MacDonald.
Yes.
Yes, he was involved in that.
And poor Kenny, eh?
Yes, I just heard.
Kenny just away last week too.
The news.
Did you know Kenny well?
Very well. He was a great friend of mine, Kenny. Yes. A marvellous Pibroch player, an all-round player. Yes.
Who was it taught Kenny MacDonald?
Well, the story goes
Peter McFarker.
Peter McFarker actually, I think, started him off, and but he went to Roddy MacDonald and all, Roger, you know, John MacDonald's brother. They were in the police, in the Glasgow police. They helped. Roddy helped Kenny a lot in the Pibroch too.
Yes.
And Kenny won a lot of prizes under him. Kenny won the double gold in the same year. I think it was 1963, if I remember right.
It's early 60s,
Yes.
So, were you competing together then, yourself and Kenny, along with quite a few others over the years, in the 60s and the
Yes.
early 70s.
Yes, well, it's end of the 60s, I would say, that I started coming to the Agasha gathering in Vanessa, and Kenny was competing then. Yes, but that time, I think Kenny had won most of the prizes anyway. You know.
Aye.
Yeah, but there were so many other players in those days, yeah.
So was that the last band you played in, the Glasgow Sky?
No, after I was involved in the city of Glasgow too, after the transport was disbanded. So we started the city of Glasgow too, and I was a manager there for a spell. Then I left there, and I was out of the bands for a while too. I was making the reeds full time probably then, and quite busy. And I was making pipe bags too, sheepskin and hide, hand stitched. Yeah, I was doing that too at the same time.
When you say you made reeds, was it just pipe chanter reeds, or did you do the drone reeds also?
Yes, I was working on both. Yes, I was doing the cane drone reeds, and the pipe chanter reeds. Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, that took a while to get together. Of course, my grandfather, you know, being a joiner, he taught me a wee bit about how to go about it, although he never made a pipe chanter reed. But I recall going back, I might as well just mention this and all. It was cane practice chanter reeds that was used a lot, and they were easily broken too. But what my grandfather done was a very simple thing: a stalk of corn, sandy oat stalk of corn, about 3 inches long, cut about 3 inches, and it was flattened on one end. And you got the right diameter really, and that actually fitted into the reeds of the chanter. And it worked a treat. It was really unbelievable, the sound you got out of that.
That's amazing,
Yeah, so we used that a lot too. It didn't last maybe long, but it was enough to give you a good practice.
And they're easy to make up.
Oh, it was just cut with the scissors. And
so if something went wrong, you just made another one, and that was it?
There was tons of corn anyway, because you had to grow corn for the cattle. You know, that was all done, and the hay and all that, and the croft, They was very, very busy.
What do you reckon that they made the reeds with, centuries ago? Obviously.
Well, I think. Well, of course, it's hard to pinpoint really, but I think it was local cane. It was probably very soft too, I would imagine, growing on the loch side and all that.
Yes.
But you know, times have moved on. Of course, things cane is probably imported. Well, I get it from. Imported from Spain, but there's a lot of sources you can get it from. Even Sardinia and probably Cuba and France and all.
Italy.
Australia. But there's so many different sources.
You prefer the Spanish cane, though?
Yes. I find it works better it was my equipment really, you know. And it's quite hard cane, which is very essential, you know, for the endurance of a reed. Yes. I would say. It's stable. It's got stability, I would say.
And you get volume and vibrancy from
volume,
it as well.
Yes. Through the sound box, you know, that's very important. The staple in the reed.
What kind of staple do you use? Use a copper or brass?
Well, it's generally a copper, really, which is folded over.
Is it folded rather than a whole?
Yes, than a whole pipe, flattened on one end. That's a kind of modern thing.
Yes.
Indeed. And of course, I think they're probably taught a wee bit better and all nowadays than what they used to be.
So,
you know. Being involved, youngsters and all being involved in bands, maybe it doesn't help maybe the way it should, because bands really, as you know, want ready-make players. But when they're young, especially, I think they should maybe help them a wee bit more in the bands. It's a time factor, probably. That causes that.
A few folk in the past in the College of Piping have taken the view that playing in a band destroys to some extent your ability to play very well in solo piping competitions. Do you have any views on that?
Yes, I totally agree with you. I think being so inexperienced, the younger generation of piping, they don't have the knowledge really to overcome maybe the embellishments and the execution required, to be a first-class player. So when you're involved in bands, really, everything is just, it's over the top, it's straight ahead, full stem ahead. The faster you play, the better kind of style,
Yes.
Which the expression is not there,
The expression, plus the embellishments, your comment to make about the pipe majors and the lower grade bands and how they have the pipers execute embellishments. Do you have a thought in that in the pipe band?
Well, of course, I'm a great believer really from the word go when a piper's being taught, youngsters. They've got to be taught the right way. Even how to hold the chanter is very, very important. Of course it is. Straight fingers, even the bottom hand, thumb. A lot of them are quite high up with their thumb. In fact, it's above the D finger. But it should be across from the C finger in the bottom.
Absolutely.
Because if it's too high, you lose control of the bottom hand. And a burl is,
and what about the top hand?
Top hand's got to be straight and at a slight angle, I would say, because of the bag, things like that. But it's got to be straight, the fingers. Really straight.
And how about being relaxed when you're playing the bagpipe? Is there any tips about that, the length of a blow stick or anything?
Yes, it's very important that for the posture. Yeah, if it's too short, of course, you're stooping down, reaching the blow stick, the blow pipe. And if it's too long, it's very uncomfortable, But nowadays, that can be rectified quite easily. They've got various differences in.
What type of bagpipe do you play now?
Well, the bagpipe I've played since I started competing really was a Granger and Campbell made pipe. And actually it was a set of pipes that I won. And it was through a trust that was left by an hotelier in Lochboystel and South Used called Finlay Mackenzie. And he loved playing, he loved the pipes, and he tried to support the piping as much as possible in the islands at that time when I was actually growing up. So he left a considerable amount of money, he put it aside to buy an up-and-coming piper, a set of pipes every year, if the piper was good enough. So he had to be a certain standard to receive these pipes. Now, I got my pipes in 1966, Granger and Campbell set, and Donald MacLeod, Pipe Major Donald MacLeod, was actually involved in Granger and Campbell at the time. So to this day, I'm convinced that I got the best set at Granger and Campbell. Yes, ivory and silver slides on our pipes, and to me, they're as good as any. Fantastic drones, yes.
Yeah, that's tremendous.
So I won a lot of prizes with them.
Won all the Pibroch prizes, both the medals, is that?
No, I haven't won both medals. So unfortunately, I wouldn't do it now. I'm retired.
No, but
I won other.
How did you do in the gold medal at Ardgurshire Gathering?
Well, I never really, to be honest, I never had a lot of attempts at it, and I never competed in the solos from say 23 years of age to about 35.
Any particular reason?
But I was involved in the pipe bands, and I love the pipe bands. So it took my thoughts away from that side, which was wrong. As within my own mind, I thought, plenty of time for the solos. But of course, I'd done very well after I started again. But I missed out on a lot of attempts at the medals. But I won a lot of prizes in the Pibrochs too, like Hewson Barra, the Cowell Gathering, and Clondonald Quay, and a lot of games and all. I won a lot of prizes.
Did you have any particular Pibroch that you were successful with?
Well, I like a lot of the Pibrochs anyway. There's no bad Pibrochs. Some are better than others, I would say.
But one that was very good for you in a prize list?
Well, there's quite a few of them and all, but probably, a fantastic tune I would say would be The Old Man of the Shells.
Oh, I love that.
Really, it's an amazing tune.
Great.
It's so variable, through the whole piece, and it's.
Who taught you that one?
Oh, my grandfather put me to yes, yeah.
And how would you express the first phrase in that? Because there's quite a bit of controversy about that first phrase.
Yes, well, the way it was put across to me is, if I remember it, hold on. Right, here goes.
lovely tune.
So that's the first line.
Oh, yes.
And the rest of the ground will follow suit, you know.
That's excellent, that, isn't it?
Yes.
When did you move into judging?
Well, when I was about 50 years of age, I think after I won the Coal Pibroch, I decided just to give competing a bye and started. I thought, well, judging would be fine for me and all, so I started off around that time when I was about 50, about 10 years ago, say.
Aye, and you're a senior judge, aren't you?
Yes, I'm a senior judge in the Kilmore and the light music, yes.
Yeah. Do you enjoy the judging?
Yes,
it's a long day, isn't it?
It's a long day, yes, but you hear so many great players and great Pibrochs too, and the Strathspeys and Wills. There's a lot of practice required for these players, you know. I went through it myself, and a lot of preparation.
Aye.
So they're well prepared on the day, you know. Everything's really taken apart, and pipes are worked on, and yeah, it makes it so intriguing, you know, to get everything right for the day. Things can go wrong, mind you, but you know.
Of course, the whole competing scene is a lot more sober these days than what it was, say, when you and I were young in the 60s and all the rest of it. You saw all sorts of people having a wee dram and getting up onto the boards and wandering off the edge of the stage and all sorts of stuff like that.
Yes.
I just remember that when you were talking about, you know, your narrow plank. And
yes.
there's other guys, even with a big stage, couldn't keep onto the stage. They just kept on marching off it.
Yes. Oh, you're right there. I suppose we all done that. I've done my part in that too, you know, during the years. But yeah, but even myself personally, I did take a drink, but I never took a lot. I was always wary that you had to.
Is there any wee sort of tales about piping and competing? It just comes readily to mind. Any wee funny stories or anything of that nature?
Well, I'm not sure, but I never really looked at it that way. But I suppose there is, if you remember them.
Aye, I know.
I remember somebody telling me a story about John D. Burgess. That he was going, this is probably in the late 50s, early 60s or something like that. And as you know, John was a tremendous player, really. So he went to the games up north somewhere, I don't know, Horskirk or maybe up there. And he wasn't particularly keen on the judges that was judging him. So he marched, when his time came to go on, he marched across to the stage, saluted the judges, and one of the judges says to him, "John, have you not forgotten something?" "Oh, is it my pipes you mean?" "Oh, I don't need pipes today. I'm going to sing instead," and he marched back off.
So he made up his mind he wasn't going to be in the prize list, so why bother, eh?
So, yeah. It's always a lot of fun in it. And why not? You know,
well, that's part of the enjoyment, playing the instrument, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
That
meeting up with a lot of people too that maybe you haven't seen for a while.
Good crack in the beer tent after the playing, yeah?
Yes, that's it, yes. Aye, good times.
Aye.
No doubt about that.
And as a last thing I must ask you about tuning pipes on stage, you know, just when you're about to compete.
Yes.
Were you a big tuner of an instrument? How long did you take? Were you ever conscious about the length of time you took to tune before you commenced playing? Well,
it all hinges really at the end of the day is on your own, on a bagpipe, if it's set up properly before you leave to compete. If the pipes are not going the way they should be, you might as well forget it.
Aye.
Because it'll be problems on the day, because it's limited having the time and a room just to tune, to get the pipes in the correct order. But well, you've got 5 minutes when you're actually on the stage, really generally.
Aye.
And I think that's sufficient, because I think nowadays the instruments, the reeds are better, and I think they come into tune quicker than what they used to, you know.
Is it nerves with some people, or what? They just not want to get started until they get the complete. Sometimes I get the impression it's not just the instrument, it's the actual pipers themselves. They're trying to get themselves psyched up to start.
Are you right there, Alan? Yes, I think nerves do play a part in it, yes. Although you need a bit of nerves too, you know, for the adrenaline to flow. But yes, some of them take a wee while longer because just to steady themselves up a wee bit further. Yeah, yes, I think the nerves. But, you know, some players are worse than others. You know, it just depends.
Personality.
Yes, a good dram beforehand would be sufficient.
There you go. So, looking back on your piping life, if you enjoyed it, or do you wish you'd played the piano?
Well, of course, the piano's lovely too when it's expertly played, but as all instruments are. No, I think the pipes were just my forte, really, you know. I loved playing the pipes. It gave me peace of mind, and it helped me a lot that way, and made friends with other people, you know. And, yeah, piping really brings people together too, I would think, you know. It certainly did to me, getting all that enjoyment out of it all these years. Went all over mostly a lot of countries in the world. You know. Piping took me there. You know, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been there at all.
Thanks very much, Willie Morrison.
It's a pleasure, Alan. Thanks very much too.